I think that right now the question is, do we all work for central bankers? That's what I want to address to our guest tonight. Is this global governance at last? Is it one world, the central bankers in charge? Jim Iuorio, you say we've got some downside here, a correction in the markets. Fine. But aren't we all just living and dying for what the central banks do?
Will you tell the American people to whom you lent $2.2 trillion of their dollars? Will you tell us who got that money and what the terms are of those agreements?
We explain each of our programs. In terms of the terms, we explain the terms exactly. We explain what the collateral requirements are. We explain what the
To whom did you explain that?
It's on our website.
Yeah, okay.
So all that information is available in our commercial paper program.
And who got the money?
Hundreds and hundreds of banks. Any bank or that has access to the U.S. Federal Reserve's discount.
Tell us who they are.
No. Reserve's discount.
Tell us who they are.
No.
Mr. Chairman, I have a hard time understanding how you have put $2.2 trillion at risk without making those names available, those institutions public.
The Federal Reserve is no more federal than Federal Express. The productive capacity of this nation is not being used. It's withering.
If you got a business, you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
We have a breaking story just posted to the RTR newsfeed regarding, get this, a SWAT team called in by the Department of Education to raid a home and collect a debt.
This is what they did to my door.
At 6 this morning, a SWAT team surprised Kenneth Wright at his front door.
In my underwear. Before I get to the door, I hear him say, "Hit it."
Wright later complained to Stockton's mayor and police, but the city pointed to the U.S. Department of Education.
They say you owe a student loan and you gotta pay it. I just had my door kicked in because of this.
And he has this warning to former students that the federal government's coming to collect in a big way.
People that have student loans out there or people that owe money, please pay your bills, take care of your credit. If you don't believe me, this could be you one morning, 6 o'clock in the morning.
The use of SWAT teams to enforce student loans provides yet another example why education should be handled at the state and local level, and why homeschooling families should be encouraged and not threatened. What happened here is an absurd abuse of power from the federal level and should not be tolerated by a free people. Wall Street bankers are handed trillions of dollars in bailout money because they can't pay their loans. However, as the average American finds themselves unable to pay their mortgages and student loans, is this how the federal government will respond? Bailouts for bankers and SWAT teams for the people.
Because this Congress voted for a $350 billion bailout of banks. I didn't vote for it, but the House and the Senate voted for it. And it resulted in the banks using the money not to help people stay in their homes, but in using the money to buy other banks, take over other banks. They hoarded the money.
Bailouts for bankers and SWAT teams for the people.
The banks have shown that they can't be trusted.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
Many of us were told in private conversations that if we voted against this bill on Monday, that the sky would fall, the market would drop 2,000 or 3,000 points the first day, another couple thousand the second day, and a few members were even told that there would be martial law in America if we voted no. And a few members were even told that there would be martial law in America if we voted no.
We are the only country in the world that can stop that. The Israelis, in my opinion, do not have the capability of stopping it. They can delay it. There will also be many, many side effects, all of them adverse, from an Israeli strike. But at the end of the day, if we don't get it done the way the administration's working on it now, which I totally agree with, then we ought to take them out.
Secretary Clinton.
Well, we're working hard.
Let us never tolerate outrageous conspiracy theories concerning the attacks of September the 11th.
You can't handle the truth.
They have weapons of mass destruction. That is what this war was about.
There is no doubt that he is amassing them to use against our friends, against our allies, and against us.
Saddam Hussein is a homicidal dictator who is addicted to weapons of mass destruction.
They have weapons of mass destruction. That is what this war was about. That is what this war was about.
Those weapons of mass destruction got to be somewhere. Nope, no weapons over there. Maybe under here.
When do we send them an airmail message to Tehran? That old Beach Boys song, Bomberan.
We, the people, elected you to be representative of the people and against this and for this great nation. But for far too long now, and the rest of Congress, including the executive branch of government, along with the judicial and legislative, have turned your back on the American people and their core values and principles. I can say with great confidence and speak on behalf of all Americans that your actions against this country are treasonous. All of you, against the will of the American people, have aided and abetted the enemy. You and the rest of Congress, including the President of the United States, have went against the will of your people in Syria, regardless of your position and vote, whether it is a yes or no, is still a political smokescreen. I believe wholeheartedly you do not care about the will and well-being of America or its people. You lied to the American people about the chemical attacks in Syria. The American people know that it was our government that is most likely responsible. There is strong evidence, including video, that these attacks were carried out by Al-Qaeda. And you advocate starting a war, even maybe world war, by taking the same attack and blaming it on Assad. President Barack Hussein Obama has been supporting terrorism. The United States has been funding and aiding organizations, including the Muslim Brotherhood and Al-Qaeda, for many years now. You swore an oath to protect us and protect from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. The simple irony is the domestic enemy now in this country is the people and government of the United States. And McCain and you and the rest of our leaders are accountable for their actions. It's too bad someone like me is not in office to hold you accountable, because if I was in a position of power or authority, I would have you all arrested and tried for treason against my country under the grounds of 18 U.S.C. 2381 treason U.S. Code. Whoever owing allegiance to the United States levies war against them or adheres to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort within the United States or elsewhere, is guilty of treason.
Well, sir, I look forward to you running for office. Nobody's preventing you from that, even in this treasonous country. But honestly, sir, when you say that we are guilty of treason, that is something that, frankly, I can't dignify with a response. I can't respond to a charge like that because it would be beneath me.
And that was easily ascertained that was not the fact. And the American people could have known that within days, and they didn't know that.
With all due respect, the fact is we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?
The Jonas Brothers are here. They're out there somewhere. Sasha and Malia are huge fans, but boys don't get any ideas. I have 2 words for you: Predator drones. You will never see it coming. You think I'm joking?
If you live in the heartland of America, you have to listen up. While the nation was distracted with the Anthony Weiner drama, President Obama signed an executive order that will seize greater power over food, fiber, and energy in our vast countryside areas. Why would Homeland Security be involved in exerting power and influence over the heartland? The aims of the White House Rural Development Plan sound eerily similar to a UN plan called Agenda 21, where a central planning agency would be responsible for oversight into all areas of our lives, a one world order. Sound familiar?
You say that would mean that we the people, the United States Constitution, would be circumvented at the altar of this one world what?
One world government, one world secondary. We would be, our sovereignty would be subject to the dictates of the World Trade Organization, the World Bank.
This is AIG, Goldman, and you know what? The Bavarian Illuminati, the Trilateral Commission, Goldman Sachs, and the Queen of England are not all bad. Goldman can be the first to rally hard enough to fix itself. I call it a virtuous circle that makes the stock even more attractive. Oh, by the way, I am part, just like when I always play with an open hand, I am part of the powerful cabal of ex-Goldman associates that controls the world.
I really think he's going over there to try to create a one world order. God forbid this even, that this happens in our country. Our country as we know it now will no longer exist. The thing that worries me the most is this health care bill, and why I'm scared about it. It's not about the health care. It's about the provisions that are in that bill. One is that if this thing passes, the government will have the right to come into our home and regulate how we raise our children.
What's happening is we are now in a state of martial law and war globally. NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, that Obama has called for and signed, stipulates that even American citizens can now be targeted by the military, picked up and imprisoned indefinitely without civilian trial, thus throwing out our due process, our habeas corpus clauses. So we are now in the state of martial law. Everything is now putting conditions for a total war state. I mean, McCain called for the whole America becoming part of the so-called battlefield. America is now a battlefield. The whole earth is a battlefield.
When law enforcement roam the streets, leveling guns at the windows of homes.
Yeah, you sent us this picture.
That's a problem.
Shows a guy in the gun turret pointing right at somebody's window.
We had lots of examples of that in New Orleans when they brought in the National Guard.
This is after Hurricane Katrina. And Mayor Nagin said, "Well, I've declared martial law,"
because he can't.
He can't. That has to be the Congress or the president. Let's explain what martial law means.
Well, martial law just is very simple. It means you're under the responsibility of the militaries.
They declare martial law or whatever state of emergency.
The police already have special powers. There are only two ways to do things in life: voluntarily or forced. Only government police officers, for example, have the right to use force on others. They can detain us, jail us, shoot us if they think it's necessary. That's why it's important that we have this, the Constitution. But the police don't always respect this. Like most people, they're happy to acquire more power and money.
Does the government work for us, or do we work for the government? How has the United States changed from a humble, peaceful republic into a police state? Have you ever noticed that the government always claims that when it does these things, it does so in the name of safety? When is the last time you heard the government give, as a basis for its behavior, personal freedom?
The slow transformation into a military police state. We now have police dressed like Army Special Forces, driving armored tanks and holding assault rifles, the sight of which alone is enough to terrify innocent people into submission. The militarization of local police departments is not only changing the way peaceful communities once looked, it's also bringing the battle mentality to our neighborhoods. We may not see police as a threat to us now, but when peace officers are geared up like soldiers, they'll eventually act like they're going to war.
Who could want a government that punishes people for speech, that lets its own agents write their own search warrants, that fights wars just to keep the military-industrial complex busy, that debases all you own by printing worthless money and putting it into the stream of commerce, that gives away more than half the tax dollars it collects, and that, despite express provisions in the Constitution to the contrary, permits the president to lock up whoever he wants and to throw away the key? Whether you believe that we are the highest order of natural selection, or whether you believe, as I do, that we were created by God in His image and likeness, you know in your heart that these natural yearnings, as St. Thomas Aquinas and Thomas Jefferson called them, are our natural rights, are a part of our humanity, and cannot long be denied us. And yet, they have been denied. America, the greatest losses to our freedom have come not from someone attacking us, but from the government ignoring the Constitution and the majority letting them get away with it. And we should make the government afraid of us. Afraid of us. Because as Jefferson reminded us, when the people fear the government, there is tyranny. But when the government fears the people, there is liberty.
At this rate, it will not be long before the federal government triggers an open revolution.